Welcome, friends, to this specialty episode of Fishgistics as we cover the UTVs and what's happening now in the UTV market and in the racing, of course. My name is Cameron Steele, known frequently as a trophy donkey, which means I am a country clubber driving a trophy truck around the deserts of Baja and Southern California and, other places like Nevada and Arizona and wherever they'll send me, really. But today we're talking UTVs, and it's an exciting topic because so many great things have been happening inside the sport. And of course, with great participation and great technology comes a little bit of chaos and a little bit of hurt feelings, maybe. So we're going to have some discussions. Joining us today, on my left, Wayne Matlock, of course, one of the perennial favorites inside the class of UTVs. Next to me directly, with Polaris representing. Next to me, the factory Honda team represented by Jeff Proctor, who has quite a bit of reputation out there in the Class 7, and now will be fielding a couple of young guns inside the Honda Talons their names are Elliott Watson, who I love his driving. I love his short course driving skills. And of course, someone who had a great short course year last year, Christopher Polvardi. And on my right, for the first time meeting Jason Murray, actually representing Can-Am. And in full disclosure, I am now representing Can-Am, part of the team, not from the race side, but from some other parts of the fun here at BajaHQ. Where we're hosting the show, we now have Can-Am Corner. You guys are welcome to come in and check it out as we move forward. But today's topics will be all over the board, but we wanted to get some big hitters inside the class, people that are well-known, people that are represented well. So first, I'd like to welcome Wayne Matlock to the conversation, buddy. How's things going?
Good. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're stoked to have you. Big things have been going on for you and your wife. You guys have had great success, obviously.
Yeah, some ups, some downs, and this year we finished up, so now we're planning for next year.
We went the other way. We finished down this year a little bit, so we had a little bit of a struggle.
Yeah.
It's hard after not having really a bad Baja 1000, so to speak, since 2006, and to have a DNF with the number 16 was a tough one. That's hard to bite down on.
Yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah.
All the hard work, all the just everything just makes you so emotional when that happens.
Right. But we're not talking Baja 1000, we're talking UTVs. Jeff, quickly, you guys, Baja 1000 for you guys?
Yeah, we had a tough one as well. I think there was a lot of changing conditions with the rain, and unfortunately, Alexander Rossi from IndyCar fame missed a corner and crashed at mile 95 from Santa Tomas heading out to the coast. And truck was banged up pretty good. We kept going.
We call that an FMC.
What's that?
Frequently missed corner.
Yeah.
It looks like a straightaway, I'll tell you. When we go down there and hang out, we have to make sure that nobody goes straight off there. Yeah, before Arendia, once you see the coast there, right? It's like a
because you can see
slide
the road
up. You can see the road on the other side.
Yeah.
Looks straight.
Yep.
And it drops away to the left.
I've done it a couple times on a dirt bike. Like,
yeah.
Whoa!
We've had some.
You're on a dirt bike, huh?
Yeah, we call it the Eric Searton corner for a while. Eric Searton did go off there one time on a ride with Johnny.
We have one of those Eric Searton corners on our Mike Sky Ranch ride.
Yeah, they're everywhere. Yeah. But one of them used to be the Walker Evans corner. Now we're calling it the Bobby Picoy corner because he went off recently. But you guys have exciting news, obviously, representing the factory. But now it's a couple young guns coming in underneath you, so that's a lot of fun to have Elliott Watson and Christopher Polvardi racing with you. It's got to be cool.
Absolutely. We're kind of the newcomers to the UTV world, and have a lot of respect for Polaris and Can-Am and what they've done, and we're just excited to go out and go racing with these guys.
Yeah, it should be exciting stuff for sure. Now, Jason, you've been racing for quite some time with the Can-Ams, a decade if I'm not mistaken.
Just about, yeah.
You've had some great success, so how have things been going for you?
Doing well. Had a great season this year. Super pumped to be here. Welcome to the Can-Am family.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Welcome you to the family.
I appreciate that.
But no, yeah, we've had a great season. The X3 has proved really well for us. We, some learning curves in the beginning, but they're all behind us now, and we're trying to win races.
Okay, let's get right into the topics of UTVs, okay? There's, of course, years gone by where the UTV was in the way. The UTV had the blue light. You can't nerf it. The UTV was a golf cart. There was trash talk, fun talk. But the bottom line, the talk nowadays is the classes are massive. Now, whether or not this is exactly accurate, for sure it's got to be right there in the fastest growing category.
Oh, yeah.
It's also got to be the largest category or close to the largest category at every race we go to. Are these facts we would all agree on? Or close to?
At least
right?
100 cars at some of these races nowadays.
Yeah.
So now outside of this, not just Polaris, Honda, Can-Am, we're talking about Yamaha's involved.
Yep.
We're talking about Robbie's company as well.
Textron.
Textron, right?
Or Speed UTV.
Yeah, Speed UTV.
So as
Don't
well
forget
as
Cowie.
and Cowie's in the mix.
Kawasaki.
So I think that one of the great things we should talk about, first of all, is one thing off-road racing hasn't had a ton of. Congratulations to you with your Honda factory racing team. We have some support from Ford, which is awesome, and I know there are some other teams out there that have some factory support, but there's no class that has the factory support that the UTVs do.
Yeah.
Right? Now everybody, it seems, is in or coming in if they're not already there. Jason, from someone who's been there for a decade, talk about how it's grown and talk about where you think the factories are going to end up taking this. I mean, are we eventually going to see semis stacked up all alongside
It's already
the race
getting
course?
there. I mean, it's already getting there. Red Bull jumped in this year with the full factory team, and it's grown a lot. I mean, I've been in the game for almost 10 years. When I first started, there was like 10 or 15 cars out there racing. Now at any race, there's 100, 150 cars out there, and the manufacturers are the ones that are really pressing that. In the beginning, Best in the Desert gave UTVs a serious look when others were not. So they really stuck to the rules and made the rules and made sure UTVs had a place to race. And the factories got together with them and helped make those rules. So the factories feel really confident in racing in Best in the Desert. And that's why we race in Best in the Desert. And I think that's why the numbers are there. All the top guys, when I sit down to do my contract, Best in the Desert is definitely one of the series that they push us to go to. And that's what draws guys like Wayne and other top tier racers to come race. And then the other guys come to try to beat us, basically, is the way I look at it.
And speaking of Wayne as a top tier racer, and we'll get to you as well, Jeff, on this, but Wayne, you were a factory racer previously, with your
with
quads,
those guys.
with Honda, and so talk about that transition, because I mean things changed for you a couple different times, but now you're right back in that factory pocket.
Yeah, we're back in the factory pocket, and probably more so than ever. With I went from ATVs to UTVs, so both things I've raced, they've always called us names behind our backs. And with the ATV program, we got to where we were finishing in the top 5 in the pro motos on the ATV. But with Honda on the ATVs, they were probably 3/4 of the way in. They supported us well. We did really well, won a lot of championships and races. And then when they shut that program down, the whole off-road thing with Johnny and everyone, it was bummed me out a lot. I was like, what am I going to do? I want to race. And then found myself racing a UTV, and it was just a ton of fun. It was like the go-kart you had or wanted to have when you were a kid, but you never could have it. So started racing those, got Polaris's attention, and everything's been full throttle since. It's pretty awesome. And now my wife's involved in it. So I would say
Not just involved, but she's one of the perennial favorites anytime she's racing.
Yeah, and it's funny, you go to tech and contingency, and it's we're pushing the cars through, everyone's pushing cars through, and it's always her car. It doesn't matter if there's trophy trucks or anything in front of her or around her. It's always her car, the kids and all the people are getting stickers from and stuff. It's pretty awesome to see.
Well, it's great to see where the sport's gone, and I think that UTVs definitely, there's probably a good and bad to it about opening the doors to people to be able to come off-road, because maybe people need to learn more about it before they off-road, but it's a great stepping stone to get into it. But that stepping stone is kind of evaporating a little bit because the classes are so successful and are going so quick. Would you agree that there's still an entryway, Jeff, but now UTV has become something that's, I mean, it's a top 10 class, but is it a top 5 class? I mean, for the overalls,
the top 5 is definitely occupied by trophy trucks.
Right. No, I mean in classes, in overall
for
classes.
sure. Like last year, I'm not sure about the numbers in this Baja 1000 because I didn't win, so I didn't pay attention. But
typical racer.
Typical racer. Last year, trophy truck beat us, TT Spec beat us, and one Class 1 car. So we were the 4th fastest class. We beat all the Class 10 cars and the rest of the classes.
So Jeff, does that start to eliminate that entry level? Or let's talk about where those classes are, and is it still a way for people to get in easy? It's obviously less expensive than a trophy truck or a Class 10 car.
Yeah, I think there's a couple different ways.
I don't know about a 10 car.
So I don't think it's less expensive than a 10 car, but I think when you look at other types of UTV racing, it still is the entry level to the sport. I just don't think racing and score Best in the Desert or maybe the Mint 400 is the right place to enter the sport because you have some of the fastest guys there. But when you have all-wheel drive, you're running 55-mile-an-hour averages in some of the races. I mean, it's tough to call it an entry level class.
Yeah, and like to touch on what you were talking about earlier with the Class 10, no one's getting a full ride on Class 10. No one's getting their bills paid and stuff like that. With
That's the
there's
factory conversation.
a direct consumer relation to the UTV. The tires I run, guys
Yeah.
on their recreational UTV are running those same tires, the suspension, the exhaust, everything I put on
Yeah.
my UTV to race, a consumer can go buy. So there's a direct relation to the consumer, to our car. I mean, you look at a trophy truck, who's putting 40-inch tires on their pre-runner or their Raptor, you know what I mean? It's very uncommon. So I think that's why the UTVs have such a draw and people are interested in them, is because there's such a consumer relationship.
What do you guys think as far as like price? How much, if someone was just to come in and start racing competitively, how much do people have to spend? Obviously, a trophy truck, you're over 500,000. A Class 1 car, you're probably 150-ish.
Talking about not buying the car just to go race.
Including the car, too. Like, if someone
Yeah.
just sees you guys racing and they're like, hey, I want to go do that. What do you think someone coming in, not with sponsors, has to spend to go do it?
That's such a tough question to answer, because at what level do you want to
Yeah.
go racing?
Well, even at
Yeah.
what level? Like I think about the money we spent and the mistakes we made on spending that money, and then I look at like one of our teammates, Brandon Sims, who
push the door.
does what he did with pretty much a stock car. I mean, it has stock plastic floor plans in it, put a cage in it, seats, a radio, suspension, and he's off to the races, and he's a top finisher at any race he goes to.
I mean, Phil Blurton races
Yeah.
for Factory Can-Am. He runs stock suspension. I mean, retains as much stock stuff as possible. And that's kind of what we do for Can-Am. It's not just to win races, to
Yeah.
sell units. There's a big R&D factor to this. What we go do in a day at one race will take a consumer 6-7 months to do. So we give direct feedback, and they can take that right back to bettering the units. And that's kind of what our goal is not just to win races for marketing, but also provide solid R&D to the manufacturers.
For sure. So Jeff, your program is one of the ones that we're going to talk about today, because Honda is coming, and in other disclosure, I ride Honda dirt bikes. So, I'm good with everybody. I am like the ultimate.
Switzerland.
Yeah, I'm the host here. I am not a sponsored athlete. I am the host here. And so Honda's going to come in. It's obviously a beautiful unit. You guys have a first-class program. You have some great drivers now. So there's a little bit of scuttlebutt, because Honda is a naturally aspirated vehicle, but intends to race in the turbo class, but it's not a stock turbo. And we don't have to dig down into this too far right now, but talk about why the turbo class. That's the focus of what's happening. Is there also an unlimited class?
There is an unlimited class, and there's also a naturally aspirated class, which the Honda comes naturally aspirated.
So there's 3 different classes.
Yes, 3 different pro classes.
So Jeff, just out of curiosity, why that particular class?
Yeah, that's a tough question to answer.
And if
but
you can't nail it down, I understand, but maybe you can.
I'll give you my best to articulate it. I mean, basically, let me back up and just say, we're dealing with Can-Am, Polaris. They're not Japanese companies. Now you have Honda in the mix. It's a Japanese company, and the reason why I say Honda is a Japanese company is that they're very conservative in the way that they do business. And Honda has had some challenges in the past legally with the UTV market. I mean, they were basically the first UTV to the market, back in the 80s.
The Pilot.
If you guys
the
remember
Honda
the Pilot and the Odyssey.
Odyssey, yeah.
Well, they had a real hard time with the 3-wheeler. Like
Exactly.
That's why they're so conservative.
And so they're a little scarred from their experiences in the 80s, I think. And so when you start to add a turbo to a unit and it pushes, top speed to a certain level, I think it creates some liability from the lawyer standpoint.
Possibly.
Right. And so in order for them to, build a car that's reputable in the marketplace, they're utilizing their racing effort as their justification to have a turbo car. So when I say, hey, I'm under contract to race a turbo car, I am under contract to race a turbo car, not a naturally aspirated car. And this is directives directly from Honda, and that's what we're planning to do, is race a turbo car. Where that fits in the class, I think there's a big discussion about it, and I'm open to that discussion today.
Do you think Honda is pressing you to do the turbo, to get R&D, to basically eventually release the turbo to the consumer? Like maybe not now, but 5 years, 2 years in a period, maybe have a turbo car?
Yeah, there's no doubt about that we're, just like you said, we're a major part of the R&D of this car, the durability of this car, everything about it. And so, hopefully that there's a turbo in the next 5 years that comes from the manufacturer, but, we can't be certain about that. What we have right now is an NA car that we're building a turbo car to go racing.
Yeah, because that's how Can-Am started. I mean, we started in a naturally aspirated car, and it was a few years, and then they evolved into a turbo car, and then evolved into the X3 that we have today. And we've raced for 10 years, and I've had to build almost 8 different cars to keep up with the wave, because every year there was a little bit of a modification that required us to build a new car, and that was the quick wave of UTVs. So I'm just curious to see if, that is the gateway maybe eventually. Because like for us, like I told you before, I'd like to see 10 manufacturers, 5, 6, 7, 8 manufacturers being represented in the Pro Turbo class, because that makes it better
The more the
for
merrier.
all of us. I mean, for so long it was, Can-Am chasing some of the Polaris guys, and then it became an even thing, and then Can-Am came out with the X3, and it's been, Can-Am X, Can-Am Polaris, Can-Am Polaris, Can-Am Polaris. It'd be awesome to bring Honda to the game, or a Kawasaki Turbo to the game.
Give us
I
someone
think
else
that's
to
the
chase.
Exactly. And for the racers. I mean, there's only so
Well,
many.
competition breeds excellence.
Exactly, and that's
So-
what you look at, like Craig Scanlon, who got involved in UTV racing at an early stage. I saw it firsthand when he jumped in. UTV game changed substantially. I mean, I would go to the race, come back to Can-Am, share my input, and it's kind of like that telephone. I tell you, I tell you, I tell you. By the time it gets to the end, nothing really was happening. But Craig
Right.
Scanlon was on the ground, making things happen on a daily basis, and from that, the sport grew a bunch.
I think there's one thing that all of us here have in common is that we want the sport of UTV racing
I
to
agree.
grow. And
Yeah.
the way it's going to grow is when you have Yamaha involved, you have Honda
Oh, yeah.
involved, you have Kawasaki involved, plus the guys that kind of started the sport, which is Can-Am and Polaris. And so I think when you look at that and you look at the growth of UTV racing, the rules have to begin to evolve. And maybe I'm going down a different path here. They have to begin to evolve to
It's
accommodate.
Fishgistics. Any path is okay.
Okay, perfect.
As long as
So-
it's
There's
pertinent
rules.
and makes sense
So
and
I
it's
guess
interesting.
everybody's so concerned about Honda being in the production turbo class, and my question to everybody is, why does it matter who manufactures the part on the car?
What it does, it just opens up Pandora's box in a
Yeah.
way. For example, there's a lot of series out there. You can go race Score, you can race Best in the Desert, there's a Pure Series, there's Rage at the River now. There's all these things that you can go race, but Best in the Desert has taken UTV racing serious from the beginning. They've worked directly with the manufacturers to create the rules, and the manufacturers have interest in being there. The second we start creating these one-off cars, allowing all these aftermarket things in there, the manufacturers lose interest in being there.
so that's
and they're
what
the
I'm-
ones that drive the big money. They're the ones that push the big sponsors that allow the sport to grow. When I got into racing 10 years ago, it was dead. Like, it was a dying sport. There was no major manufacturers involved. Toyota was gone. Nissan was gone. You didn't see Ford really representing much out there. But now it's all UTVs. It's, Can-Am is the, King of the Hammers title sponsor. Polaris sponsors a bunch of events, and they feel the need to be there, and that's what pushes the racers to be there, pushes the sponsorship dollars to be there. The better cars are there, and therefore all the other racers want to come race there. So what I'm fearful of is if we opened up all these things, the manufacturers lose the interest of being there, and then
The more open it becomes, the less interested they are. Like, trophy trucks are badass vehicle.
100%.
But you have a hard time getting Ford or Chevy or anybody to buy in on trophy trucks because everyone knows that's not what they sell.
Yes.
It's not a
We're
Ford
trying
F-150.
to, our car, if you look at our car, we run all stock components except for the stuff that we have to add to the car for the weight. So like our suspension, we upgrade the suspension because of the weight. The axles, we upgrade the axles because of the weight, but we're still running stock front diff, stock engine, stock drivetrain,
Yeah.
stock
CVs,
carrier bearings, stock
brakes.
CVs, stock brakes, stock steering rack, stock, as much stock stuff as possible. And to be honest, I've gone the other way. I've put a bunch of crazy stuff
Yeah.
on the car, and to be honest, it doesn't work as well.
No, the next car I build is going to be more of a
It's
stock,
stock,
car.
and I've gone that direction. We went to this over in build to heavy, faster, but in reality, it just became more problems. We've gone back to as much stock stuff as possible, and we've had great success with it. And most of the top guys, and Wayne, you can talk about this too. I mean, I know you run suspension, but you run a lot of stock components on your car as well.
There's stock spindles, stock brakes, stock hubs,
Mm-hmm.
wheel bearings, differentials, the whole motor, everything's stock.
So let's get back to the topic of the turbo, and I know that we are digressing and jumping all around. Is it just the turbo that you're talking about not conforming to the rules, so to speak?
It's not about not conforming to the rules. It's the turbo.
And the rule states that it's a factory turbo.
It's
Is that
turbo
what?
says
Is that
it-
You guys have the
Yeah,
rules on the
like
papers,
in
right?
Best in the
Yeah.
Desert,
OE
it's-
turbo.
Yeah, best in the desert,
production.
and same thing in Score.
And so I
it's
want to
pro
kind of
production.
peel back the onions, if we will, Cam, and just say, okay, if we peel back the onion of what's the root cause of having an OE turbo versus Cameron Steele turbo in your car? What is the real problem with that? And the real problem with that, how I see it, and I'm curious to get with you, is there's no way to regulate an aftermarket turbo, right? You want to keep the playing field the same amongst all cars.
Right now, all the cars are fairly comparable in speed.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all within a 5 to 10 mile an hour pace kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, opening up the turbo, in my opinion, just it gives the reason for the manufacturers to not want to be involved anymore. And I mean, you've seen this
disagree.
probably in your
I disagree.
day, you know, when you were doing this.
Well,
with-
clearly you disagree on your end.
So
hear me out.
I don't think there's any grounding to say that the manufacturers wouldn't be involved if you open up the rules to allow
they want to be able to compete
Yamaha,
against like
Yamaha, Kawasaki, and Honda.
when we
All the
win
Japanese.
at any given race, there is a rivalry between the Polaris. I mean, look at it now. It just, I mean, it happens, and that sparks sales. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They like that direct consumer relation. They trust me. They want Honda to be involved, and they want them to race in the turbo class. They just want them to have a turbo.
Yeah,
And when Honda made the car, I mean, think about it. They made a price point that's about 10,000 less than the Polaris and the Can-Am.
Yeah.
The horsepower is almost 100 horsepower less than the Polaris or Can-Am. When they built that car, they didn't build it to be a sport side-by-side. You know what I mean? And there's a lane for that. There's an NA class that you can race in. And if you want to strap the turbo on, you can still compete against us. You can still take the overall.
I think at the end of the
You know
day,
what I mean?
we want to go out against and compete against the fastest
Mm-hmm.
side-by-side racers in the world. And that's
Well, then you
that's
have to
what our
race my
plan is.
wife in the NA class.
No, so let's get
But
back
you
to
still
the turbo
would
real
race us,
quick.
though. You know what
She
I'm saying?
beats you guys half the time.
My point is that the rules, it has nothing to do with whether it's an OE turbo or it's an aftermarket turbo. It has to do with the regulation to make sure that there's a fair playing field, that I don't show up with a turbo that's this size against your turbo that's this size. Right? Is that correct?
Because
Yeah,
there's aftermarket turbos that you can buy for the Can-Am too, right?
Right,
Let's
but it's not about how much horsepower you have. Desert racing's never been that way. With Trophy Truck, you can put, you can get an 1,800 horsepower motor, but the drivetrain won't hold up.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing in our class. I think where like Polaris is coming from is they, same thing as Can-Am, is like they stepped up and took a chance, built a turbo car.
Mm-hmm.
They took the liability of all this stuff, and now Honda wants to come in and play in the big boy class without building a big boy car.
Okay, well, let's not digress. And what I want to be careful of is that we aren't, not that you were, but let's not, no daggers at each other. And
Oh, no.
I hear everybody
Yeah.
promoting their end of the conversation, which is fine. That's what this forum is all about.
Right.
But let's try to keep focus of what the future of the sport looks like and how it could get there. Now, my initial reaction is that there's 3 classes fit in one of them, but
Which they do. The Honda
Right.
fits in the unlimited class.
Right.
So how
Right.
come you guys don't want to just race the unlimited class?
and he's
Because-
not ganging up on you. He's just asking.
Yeah.
No, just a serious question. Because it fits
serious
in that
question.
class
Why
right now.
why we don't want to race in the unlimited class? Because we built a stock car, and just a plug for Honda, we're using more stock components, especially the chassis, than a Polaris or a Can-Am to go race. So if you look at our chassis, all we're doing is gusseting the chassis. It's a stock chassis. We're not
You
cutting.
guys have all been great about diving in your
Oh, yeah.
your
So-
talking points.
yeah.
It's really good.
No, I'll let him go down the rabbit hole.
I guess coming back to this whole turbo thing, there's already a case out there of where side-by-side racing needs to go. And I think you need to look at the IMSA Sports Car Series. If you look at the IMSA Sports Car Series, they have a very diverse manufacturer set from anywhere from Bentley to Nissan that races it. Of course, the NSX races in it as well from Acura. And if you look at it, they have to appeal to 8 to 12 manufacturers that are building wildly different sports cars to race in that series. And how does the promoter regulate that to create equality amongst the class? Well, guess what they do? It's something that no promoter in off-road has done yet. To my
Claiming rule.
no. It's data acquisition. So IMSA has complete control over data acquisition of every race car that races. So you go out for qualifying, they plug into your ECU immediately, they pull all the telemetry, and they verify it. And people get qualified all the time just when they are disqualified from qualifying because they had the boost turned up 2% more than IMSA required them to keep a level playing field. So again, it's not about the turbo, it's about keeping a level playing field so that all manufacturers can participate. And as soon as somebody steps to the table with data acquisition and is actually doing what sports car racing is doing, now we have a real series with all of the major manufacturers competing.
It would blow my mind to say that we're going to have the off-road community plugging into their race cars.
Not
Well,
gonna
there's a
happen.
cost to that. You know what I mean?
There's a cost to it, yeah.
And that's what the UTV is like.
That would be cool.
And we're doing it in trophy truck, but I can't imagine.
We do it in our car.
I mean,
but it's-
we were touching on cost to build UTVs earlier. You know, there's guys who are great fabricators who could build a UTV in their garage for 10 grand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Take a stock car, put the cage on it.
There's no way.
Oh,
I
yeah.
built my first car for $5,500. It's still at my shop. I'm not joking. And this is where we started. This is not where we are today. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay,
But
okay,
on the flip side, now you're building cars up near 100, 120,000. So, but there are guys still getting in at the $10,000 point, and there's guys getting in at the $100,000+
Yeah.
point. So it's hard to sit there and say, well, let's bring all this data acquisition, all these things in. When one guy, I know specific racers who have a hard time just getting fuel to get it in their car to go to the race.
Yeah.
Now you're asking them to buy. So again, I'm all about creating a better sport, and I want to see this long term. My fear is I've seen it, or I wasn't there. Maybe you can touch on this. You might have been there in this time, but
You just called me old.
sorry.
That's okay.
But when Nissan and Toyota,
Young at heart.
it was in the 90s. It wasn't that long ago, right? No, but Nissan and Toyota were really rivals.
30 years ago.
Was it?
Just saying.
Okay.
just so you know.
I mean,
You
what
dated yourself, right?
what pushed out Honda and what pushed out Nissan and Toyota? What made them eventually fall off? And in my opinion, you see like Best in the Desert kind of started going down. Other series started going down. Do you know why?
There's a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
But, I mean, similar to this conversation.
And that's
right?
that's what I'm trying to stay is if we can keep a line where we can all stay on that keeps the manufacturers involved. That's my main thing is that we want to keep the manufacturers involved.
Mr. Fish,
Yes.
what do the people say? What's happening on your feed?
They are saying anywhere from the Honda should just race in the naturally aspirated class to asking about the Dakar car. Is it a Polaris, Wayne? Is that a Polaris? No? Okay.
So now that it's
all over
been
the
mentioned,
board.
of course, we can mention that a lot of people have seen that there's a new UTV-ish or UTV that's developed in Dakar. Is it a UTV, first of all? That's all.
It's classified as a UTV.
classified as
from what I
UTV.
understand.
It's racing in the UTV
Seth
class.
Quintero, Blade Hildebrand, and Mitch Guthrie Jr.
Yep.
all representing in that category. But it's the UTV category. What will that be a different class than the regular classes? Do you guys know?
I
I know you
Dakar
guys
has
aren't
a lot
Dakar
of weird
guys.
stuff about
I
it.
believe they're going to race in a different class. There's like 3 different classes, I think,
Yeah.
for UTVs in Dakar.
There's like
the
classes
FIA.
in the classes.
Yeah, I don't know how they all break down.
I've
but there
been
are
on
a
the
few
phone with
different
the
classes.
North American liaison, Darren Skilton, for Dakar, and obviously, my program's looking to go race Dakar as well. And basically, what Darren's telling me is that the UTV classes in Dakar are in flux right now. They haven't been able to keep up with where the industry's going as well, and so I'm being advised to hold off a year or two to wait for the classes to be really kind of narrowed in on what we need to run. But yeah, there's a lot of transition right now.
What's the biggest class
For
in UTV? What's the biggest
Pro
class?
production
Turbo.
turbo.
Pro Turbo.
Yeah, that's
where-
the biggest class. That's where everything's at. Then you have naturally aspirated. Then
And so that leads to the point of why Jeff wants to be there, because it's the biggest
don't
class.
get me wrong. I want Jeff in our class too. 'Cause
I
I
agree.
can't beat him if he doesn't race against us.
Right.
So as a racer,
So
I
if
want
you
more
beat-
competition.
Just playing devil's advocate. If he's racing in the unlimited class,
Right.
would they start in front of you guys?
No.
behind us.
They would
Behind.
start behind because there
Because-
hasn't been establishment of
Exactly.
finishing order.
Exactly.
Okay, so now if you were to beat him, and he's in the unlimited and you're in the turbo, do you promote that? Do you talk about that?
Yeah.
You
Oh,
beat
yeah.
him, right?
Can-Am.
Yeah,
promotes
and that's the
unlimited
thing
class.
is that's why I want him in our class, because him, like any other racer, if he races unlimited and he crosses a line in 4th and we cross the line in 1st, he's still going to say he won the Baja 1000 because he did in the unlimited class.
Absolutely.
And and in my mind, they're going to give Honda an easy bragging victory. And I would rather have everyone in the same class than there's one winner.
So then we
And-
agree.
I agree with you.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
I agree with you, but I also see the other side of the argument. I see the side of the manufacturer and everything else. But as a racer,
So let me ask
wanna
you
race.
about the short course series. There's been a lot of success with that 1000cc class in Lucas Oil,
right?
right? They have a ton of
Ton of
entries.
it, yeah.
And that's, what are the ramifications of that? What is that class? What is the outline of that class?
It's a 1000cc naturally aspirated class. Well, we have them in desert racing too. That's
Sure.
what Kristen races.
Right.
In. They're just, since the turbo class, everyone wants a turbo because everyone wants to go faster. But there's still, a lot of people in that naturally aspirated class.
And in the desert series, Best in
Right.
the Desert, is there more turbo or is there more naturally aspirated?
I don't know now because there's a lot of cars showing up. I mean, at the race, the premier class is the turbo class, but I mean, your wife races in the natural. How many cars show up for her class? Do you know?
I think there was like 26.
So, yeah, then the turbo
26
class is
turbo
still bigger than-
class, and then in natural aspirated, I think there was 13 or 14. So we still outnumber it, but that class has actually been growing a little bit probably over the last year.
Do you have more fish? You got people asking questions at all of everybody?
Yeah, they're just kind of commenting on it. One person says they don't want to race in a limited class because it has less credibility. So that kind of, I guess the higher end guys are in the turbo class. That's why everybody wants to race the turbo class or the NA class. The limited class kind of like a wild card is what it seems like to me from the outside. You can just show up with anything and go race that class.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think it doesn't have any credibility. We want to go race, and we're not trying to take the easy way out here.
So now, are you? And is it only your vehicle? Are there other vehicles in the same situation?
Yes. So the Speed side by side, the Yamaha and the Kawasaki and Honda. So all the Japanese manufacturers in Speed are in the same situation.
Do not come with turbo.
That's correct.
Do not.
And Robbie has been denied to race his cars
No,
in
he
those
has
classes at Best in the Desert.
No, he has not. He was grandfathered in because Score and Best in the Desert screwed up and didn't put a limitation on how many had to be manufactured. So Robbie just said, "Well, I've made 3 of them." So he was a
So
manufacturer.
they've since changed that rule.
They've since changed that rule,
You have
but
to have
he's
1,000 units in production.
Robbie's still grandfathered in Score.
Known as
Those-
homologation.
Yes.
So he's racing a turbo in Score,
Yes.
but not a turbo in Best in the Desert? It's a naturally aspirated in Best in the Desert, isn't it?
He raced a turbo at UTV World
Oh, he did?
Championships. He lined
Okay.
up next to me.
Oh, wow.
But there was things we don't.
I just threw
Yeah.
one of these. That's because Kelly Slater just got a great wave. For those of you that aren't paying attention behind
That's
us.
why this is on the TV here. Cameron wanted to watch
He
this.
refused to take it off. Battle for the world title today, Olympic positions, and all kinds of things.
So
happening
people
in
were
the
asking
contest.
so there's 3 different series we're talking about basically. We're talking about Best in the Desert, Score, and then Mad Media, which now runs Mint 400 and the UTV World Championship.
Is that officially the name of their series?
I don't know. I just know Mad Media is in
Do you
charge
guys know?
right now.
I don't
think
know.
there's a
Just
name.
Matt when
They
I
just
pulled up,
claim
I had no
independent.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in people were asking what's the difference between them? Because in the Mad Media series, which is the Mint 400 and the UTV World Championships, they have come out and said that the Honda is allowed to race in the Pro Turbo class at
With the
the
approved
Mint
turbo,
400
yeah.
and UTV World Championships.
So okay. So question: you said with the approved turbo. What is the approved turbo?
Yeah, so
How did you guys get included in that class in the Mint?
yeah, so I mean, this isn't a plug for Matt Martelli, but the
But
reality
it
is
is. That's okay.
Well,
But
he
no,
runs the
no.
series.
He's a forward thinker, and he's got a lot of good ideas.
Martelli has been the only promoter to spend the time and learn about our turbo system and what it does and how a promoter can work with it. Score and Best in the Desert have not put in the effort to learn about it. And so once Martelli, he came out and he spent an entire day with the engineers of the system. And he learned that it's a complete sealed system. You can't tamper with it. He learned as a promoter how to work with it so that he can regulate it in his series. And we can give him data acquisition. We can give him access to anything. And he walked away from that feeling very secure that he was creating a level playing field with the other cars.
I agree with you because I talked to Matt about it. Then you have other manufacturers, say Robbie. Is Robbie going to do the same thing?
He says he is. He said
Right.
if they're allowed in, then I'm coming with my car with 500 horsepower and my big ass turbo.
And there we go. And
So how can
There's the issue, yes.
We just opened Pandora's box.
How can you tell him no?
I can't speak for Robbie, but Honda's going
Right.
to play fair and square. I don't know about Robbie, but Honda's going
Right.
to
So
but
what
the-
they're saying
but
is
the
if they
promoter
let you
can-
in,
Right.
they
The
got to let
promoter
Robbie
can mitigate it.
Yes.
So is there a limit to the size of the turbo induction? Is there a limit to the horsepower?
What Matt's trying to do is make it fair. So he's trying to make it to where the Honda doesn't put out any more real power than the Can-Am or the Polaris. And I get that. But with an ECU, with a flip of a switch, I can go from 180 horsepower to 230 horsepower. And so can Jason. So could you. It's
But you
just,
can read that on the ECU if you have data acquisition from the promoter.
if you do, but that's not going to happen. We all know that.
I'm saying that that's
It's
the
like
solution.
if grasshoppers had guns, birds wouldn't mess with them. But
That's a great
So-
analogy.
When I talk to Matt is open to data acquisition. He sees
He
that
is.
that's the future of the sport as well.
I agree with you, but it's
What
you know.
if this way? And what if the Honda or the Speed or
Right.
whatever the unit is that doesn't have the turbo has to provide that telemetry or a download way for them to download, and they fund that with the promoter? Would that make it more okay if you know that you have a level playing field. And
I
those
honestly,
companies,
like Wayne touched on, it's not about horsepower really, and it's really not about that for me either. Like when we go up race them in, I have no problem lining up right next to you with a car that has 200-300 horsepower. I don't care.
Right.
We're there to race. You know what I mean? It's nice to have the one series that's grown the largest to kind of maintain their rule structure, and that's kind of where I keep pressing. It's just nice to have that one home that we can compete against manufacturers.
and have you spoke to Best in the Desert about this? Have you spoke to Best in the
Yeah,
Desert?
we've talked
I
to
have.
Best in the Desert about this. Yeah.
Now, where are they on this?
So Best in Desert's ruling, based on their tech inspector, Corey Sappington, is that they will not allow us to run because their rules state that it has to be an original equipment. So what they're doing as a promoter is limiting the class to Can-Am and Polaris.
No, because
Unless Honda builds
Unless
a car
Honda
with a
builds
turbo,
one.
Unless Honda
then
builds
you
a
can
turbo.
race
The
it.
Japanese are not going to build a turbo.
Well,
Well, you're not racing turbo classes. That's the
But
desert.
also
Is what they
this-
said.
A fact was there was a couple years ago when the turbos first came out. We raced it with the NA cars in the same exact class, and that was the only year an NA car swept every single race against the turbos. So
But I understand.
a
What
built
you're
up-
saying, it's possible, but he's not going to want to race against you guys if he doesn't have the equipment to race against
No,
you.
but a point is that a well-built NA car is just as powerful
Kristen overall
as
the
a turbo.
500 last year
His
in
wife's
an
a
NA
classic
car.
example of
Seth
that.
does really good, and
His wife,
NA.
but Justin Lambert, this was like 5 years ago, swept
Yeah.
the entire Best in the Desert series in an NA car against the turbos.
Yep.
So, there is room to grow the naturally aspirated class or your car to go faster and not necessarily have a turbo. So,
But envision a world where you have 6 major manufacturers involved instead of 2.
I get
What
it.
does
I
that
agree.
do for the sport?
I agree. Like we talked about earlier, I can't wait till Honda has a turbo. I can't wait till there's 10 cars with turbos and we're racing against all of you guys. I want the sport to grow.
But that doesn't exist with the Japanese now. We're trying to grow the sport right now.
Well, tell them to make a turbo car. Then.
well,
Are you watching? We would love for you to make a turbo car.
I understand. Jason's got his opinion.
Yeah.
Jeff has his opinion. Both very separate. Wayne seems to be landing more in the middle, but I think
As a racer, I want nothing more than you to line up next to us, and then we can say we beat Honda.
It's more fun to beat the
more
best
fun.
of the best and
Yeah,
race
for
against
sure.
them.
Yeah, it's
Everybody
more
agrees
fun
on
We
that.
that
feel
way.
the same way.
As a manufacturer, from Polaris's point of view, I understand what their point of view is. If it matters to anything, I had conversation with Scores, like let them race, but it's I see the whole thing. Once you open Pandora's box, like Robbie said, I'm going to come with 500 horsepower. Well,
And
Yeah.
Jeff, Robbie's a different situation, obviously.
but it will happen.
He was supposed to call in, Robbie, if
There's a
you're
little
listening,
opening,
give
it
us a
just
call.
keeps getting bigger and bigger
Yeah,
and bigger. Next
yeah.
thing you know, you lose control.
I do think that a promoter like Best in the Desert, who has a great track record of modulating and mitigating their classes, I think they could make this work if a Honda or Robbie or whoever helped them with the funding. But on the same token, I totally understand the point of Jason and you guys talking about it. But part of me thinks that growing the sport is an awesome part of this, but at the same time, I think there's got to be some responsibility along
Right.
the way when you do it. So
We don't want to grow the manufacturers out.
And I think if we were sitting here talking to a less respectable racer and less respectable company, then it would be more of a cautionary feeling. But it feels like it's almost like maybe it could work, but maybe we don't want it to. It's kind of a weird road to be on. What do you think, Fish? I mean, doesn't it feel like there's kind of a weird trepidation on this in some ways?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's hard because Honda didn't build a turbo. So if they did, it would have just been
awesome. Game on.
Yeah, game on. There's
Yeah.
none of this discussion even going on, but they didn't. So I think if it was me, I would just race in the NA class. But I know you said you're not under that contract, but was that ever discussed to go and race the NA class? Because if you have an NA car,
And
production car,
that was my next question.
then,
If you
you know.
have a contract to race the turbo class, did they realize this was an issue? Did you realize?
Who sold them on it?
So obviously, I realized that there was a potential for this issue, but when you have corporate orders and they want to go a certain direction, they have a reason for it that may or may not need to be discussed today. I mean, that's kind of where we're at. I anticipated this. I didn't think it was going to get this much pushback. I thought people would welcome Honda to race. But
It sounds like they are welcoming Honda,
Right.
but they're trying to force.
I don't think it's anything
Just in
against
the right
Honda
spot.
specifically.
Well, and that's
like
the
I
thing.
said, want
is
to keep it even.
I could see your argument better if there was no class for you to race, but there happens to be 3 classes, 2 of which your car fits in.
But
And
Wayne,
other
you don't
series.
want to go race in open UTV?
I might.
No, you don't. Because it does no good for the manufacturer.
Let me from a different side. From a different side, if the open category suddenly had a $50,000 year-end bonus, would Wayne Matlock change classes?
I would do what Polaris wanted me to do, and if it was up to me, we'd all be racing pro stock. You know, the new class and score where you have to have stock suspension and everything else. Keep the numbers down as far as
the cost.
keep the cost down. The numbers are going to go up. You can go, to any dealership.
When did this class come around?
This year it started building.
Cathro did. I think he finished in the top 10.
Cathro finished fifth, but Ampunia finished third at the Baja 400.
Yeah, that's a full
And,
stock car.
Rodrigo's actually on here. He said, just say the Honda identifies as a turbo. Rodrigo Ampudia just
Thanks,
said that.
Ampudia.
Leave it to Ampudias. They always have the right answer.
That is the right
And
answer.
speaking of which, since, although we didn't do a Baja 1000 show, just hats off to the Ampudias for an excellent
Yeah.
job at making the Baja 1000 come together. Just brilliant, a great family from Ensenada.
talented bunch of
Super
people.
stoked for them. Super stoked for them.
Yeah.
And I watched from the helicopter over those first 100 miles. They were not laying up. They were getting it. Yeah, for sure.
Rodrigo just said again, he said there's 3 classes that the Honda can race in. That naturally aspirated class, unlimited UTV, and stock UTV. So that's that new class you were talking about, right?
Yeah, pro stock UTV.
In score, he's
score.
saying.
So what, but just for, would you guys consider moving up the class if there's a big purse there? What
If there's a
what
big
if,
purse?
What if Honda came in and put up $100,000 on a TV show?
Oh, well then we would all talk about it and talk about it with Polaris, and he'd talk about it with Can-Am. And
I go where they tell me to go.
Yeah, we're not funding our own programs.
I mean,
our
there's a
programs
series
are
that
coming
just
from
popped up in Texas. I think they have $60,000 purse for the pro turbo winner
Yeah.
or something like that. It's $60,000 or $40,000. So they're starting to pop up. They're out there.
Yeah.
But you got to remember what pays all of our bills here to go racing, and it's proving the production chassis, proving the production components.
So you're saying if you raced unlimited, you wouldn't race that because they're bigger cars, they have more aftermarket parts?
Well, no, everyone, in my opinion, I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but the unlimited class is full of production cars. They're full of Polarises. They're full of Can-Ams that could fit in the production turbo class. People that choose not to race against us, they want to race a different class.
Cameron, you can see how many on that paper there at the top. Each of the big races, I put how many
You're going to
cars.
make me read?
Here, I'll read it for you. So Vegas to Reno this year had 57 in the turbo class. In the unlimited class, they had 13. So there was 57 versus 13. That's at Best in Desert's biggest race. Mm-hmm. At the Mint 400, there was 77 turbos, and there was 16 unlimiteds. And then at the Baja 500...
16 is a cool number, by the way.
There you go. At the Baja 500, there was 24 turbos and only 4 unlimiteds. So there's not very many of the unlimiteds in Baja is what it looks like.
Right. It's the smallest class every series. And I get why you don't want to race it. I totally get it. But at the same time, we're all going for the same overall trophy. Mm-hmm. If you walk away with that,
so there is an overall UTV.
There's an overall UTV trophy.
First overall, yeah.
So if you walk away with that billet aluminum trophy, you can do it from the natural aspirated class. We've seen it. You can do it from turbo, or you can do it from unlimited. It's it's this whatever class you're racing.
We
you're
should
still
all
going
probably
for that.
agree right here that he's not going to agree with you guys, and you guys aren't going to agree with him.
Well, I think it comes down to a contract, right? I'm under contract to race a turbo. So
Yeah.
wherever that fits in, I don't have a choice.
And we should also agree that we don't make the rules.
Yeah.
We try to live by them and
But you
find out where
guys,
they are.
you guys are the pillars of the community. So I deal with this in other forms of off-road. They involve people that have clout, horsepower, experience. So I'm guessing if Jeff is talking to Best in the Desert about a rule change, they're talking to Wayne Matlock and
They're not talking to me.
Nope.
No.
Best in the Desert's not. Score
will.
We
Score
have
will.
an open channel.
Okay. So Best in the
and
Desert
it's-
makes their own decision.
I talked to Corey Sappington literally an hour ago before here, and if you look on Best in Desert website, and you guys probably confirm, he's apparently in charge of the UTV class in Best in the Desert.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He said the Honda's not racing in Pro Turbo and Best in Desert as of an hour ago. That's according to Corey Sappington. I talked to Jose G.
I can confirm that.
And there you go. So I talked to Jose G an hour ago also. At Score. He said he talked to the tech director, and as of right now, the Honda's not racing in Pro UTV.
That is not
He
true.
says it's not true.
I can't speak to it right now, but what I can tell you is that SCORE has never seen the vehicle and hasn't seen a single part on the vehicle, and that it's an open discussion with the tech inspector at SCORE.
So there you go. There's ongoing discussion at SCORE.
But at SCORE, a decision hasn't been made yet. And my understanding is that Wayne and Mark Burnett are kind of the pillars of the community for SCORE. So when SCORE goes to make this decision about allowing Honda to race production turbo, they're going to ask Wayne and Mark Burnett.
My only problem.
He's like, "What's up with me over here?"
Yeah. I don't know about pillars,
nothing
but
against you, Jason, but that's what
That's a
I've
whole
been
other
told.
story.
I don't
No,
remember that when he sees your
So-
bumper.
that's episode 2.
So my point is that Wayne and I are going out to dinner after this show.
I already told you where I stand on it.
We're heading to Javier's.
Yeah. It's
I love Javier. Can I come? I can mitigate.
Absolutely.
Or moderate.
yeah. You can bring a Can-Am guy now too.
What other topics? So let's get off this topic for a second. What other topics are hot in UTV right now, Wayne?
It all revolves around manufacturer support. So, you get races that, Can-Ams do better at. You get races that Polaris do better at. And then you have the rivalry, just like you talk to any guy out there has a pickup truck. What truck's better? Chevy. He just crawled out of a Chevy. But you have that big time with in between the classes.
Where do you guys think? Here's a topic that I have. It seems like there's a lot of companies that have come to the aftermarket, right? So there's a lot of people, whether it's the cage or the suspension or this, that, or the other thing. Where is this aftermarket? Because the manufacturers are also partially involved with the aftermarket. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Building some of them?
Polaris owns a fair amount of aftermarket companies. But you get like these aftermarket, like even tires, where you got companies like Yokohama Tires, ITP Tires, BFG. They're now seeing the UTV stuff as a major market.
well, it's just the numbers. Look how they're sold. I mean, a local dealer can sell 60 or 80 of these units in a month. It's unbelievable. That's one dealership. They're selling thousands and hundreds of thousands of these units.
My favorite line to the tire company is, how many trophy truck tires do you sell in a year compared to how many
you
UTV
think
Trying
tires?
to dog us?
Just a little.
Well, I think about a UTV. I mean, after a season, you're changing your tires out. Normally, your wheels are
Yeah.
getting swapped out. You're always accessorizing it. You're always buying.
When they
stuff
tow the
for it.
UTVs with trucks.
Yeah.
So every UTV owner has at least one truck.
Yeah. So what do you think are hot topics right now in the sport, Jeff?
I definitely think the aftermarket, I kind of agree with these fellas. I mean, just the other day, we got picked up by Gibson Exhaust for the Talon program, and they're building all of our exhausts, and we posted a video
Nice,
of the Talon.
seamless sponsor play.
And-
I like it.
And that day, Gibson sold.
He's good.
Gibson sold 10 Talon exhaust systems the first day we posted a picture of the Talon, and it goes back to what we race. The end consumer can
Yeah.
go and buy, and that's the differentiator.
It's the old way motorcycles race on Sunday, sell Monday.
Yep. You also look at like SEMA statistics, and the UTV segment is growing by $1 billion a year, and it's forecasted to be at, I think, don't quote me on this, $7 billion by 2021. So it's a pretty significant market, and I think all the manufacturers are seeing that.
The only thing everyone has to watch out for in the manufacturing aftermarket is Robbie Gordon and his patents that he has on just about everything UTV right there. Which I know didn't want to talk about it too much, but I have to talk about it because a lot of people are talking about it online here. So as you guys might have seen, that Dakar car got posted about online, and then sure enough, right away Robbie's on there claiming he has patents on it on the whole front end of the Dakar car. Then he heard the Honda cars racing, and he thinks he has patents on that, but he hasn't seen it yet, so he doesn't know. So then if you just go on Google, and for all you guys listening, go on Google and type in Robbie Gordon patent, and you will be surprised at the patents that come up. They're all online. He literally patented about everything on a UTV that he could, and they're all approved patents. So I don't know if
Kudos to him.
He thought of it before a lot of people did. You can't mount a shock off the lower arm on a UTV in the front, or it's Robbie Gordon patented. So all you guys are all off the upper arm, right? And all the factory ones are off the upper arm. Well, if a factory ever wants to put one off a lower arm, they're going to have to pay Robbie because he has the patent on it.
Does it matter where you mount it on the lower arm?
I don't know specifically, patents,
There's
we have
gotta
to
be
change
ways around
10%
those.
or
Right,
something.
right.
So, but it is funny he has that. If the steering, where's the steering on all your guys' car? In the rear of the spindle, right?
I've heard all the stories.
Yeah. So he's got one on the front of the spindle. So it's just kind of funny. Robbie's full UTV now, and he's full patenting everything that he can with
but
it.
there's no UTVs.
I don't know. Yeah.
Robbie is definitely a forward thinker.
Oh, very much. And kudos to him for finding these patents, doing it, but also stepping up and taking on major manufacturers like Can-Am and Polaris and Honda and everyone. You don't see that often these days. And so I think it's awesome. Another UTV coming to market, and we're going to see how it does in the races.
Robbie will definitely have something interesting to check out.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah, he's talked to me about it, and it's cool. All the parts he's using.
He is
cool. It's just-
he is an amazingly talented individual with a lot of forward thinking and a hell of a driver. So whatever
I think
becomes
he's one of the
his-
best drivers
Because
there
there's
is.
only a few years ago that he was calling us slow golf carts. Now he's coming and racing with us. I freaking love that.
Well, all these guys, Cam's,
I love it.
Cam's
I
a
love
fender
it.
too.
Yeah,
And now he's Mr. Can-Am.
I love it.
Coming
See,
over to the dark
manufacturers,
side.
huh?
Yeah.
But at least you can say I've been very fair for all along the way, right?
Oh, yeah. You were always very fair
Mark
to me when I was
Burnett
racing
just
quads.
jumped on the thread and said that
Hi, Mark.
the score decision is final, according to Mark Burnett. So
Well, according to who I talked to at Score, it was final too, but
Final that Honda's
No
not
turbo?
racing turbo.
they
no,
said
no
they were-
turbo, he said.
they said they
Perhaps
were
we should
following-
get Dan, the score tech inspector, on the phone.
Oh,
right now.
Barnett's
Yeah.
the mayor. He's already said it's in stone. Thanks, Mark.
the mayor. Yeah,
Mark
it's-
Burnett's definitely switched on to the program.
Hey, Mark, if you come race for my team, can you get it approved at Score?
sure you want that kind of trouble.
I'll let you know what he says.
So the UTV market is blossoming and booming. We're going to wrap this up shortly. I know that there's a hot topic, obviously, around this non-turbo Honda, but for me, what I really like about the entire conversation that we had today is that there is a lot of great energy and synergy around the UTV. There's great racing.
Mm-hmm.
There's not one person or group dominating or manufacturer,
No.
and more are coming to the plate, and there have been some exceptional drivers that have been bred through UTV and some exceptional drivers that have come to UTV. And I think that it's a really exciting place. The UTV World Championships that the Martellis put on, the entries are staggering.
Huge event.
Yeah, was there almost
Well,
300
It
entries?
says
Well, on top of that, what's neat is when we started this, there was,
380.
Yeah, 380 UTVs.
well,
in the World
they have a
Championship.
farm program. It's awesome. You see kids that are 7 years old.
Yeah.
They
My
have
kids
race
are
cars
racing.
out there. I mean, when I started this, it was just us racing. There was
Yeah.
one class, and that was it. Now you go to the World Championship, and it's like a little league out there. There's kids
Oh.
with cars and parents, and I mean, they're all.
We do
It's
the
unbelievable.
dirt series. It's a grassroots series here in Southern California, and the kids race is the biggest race of the day,
They
both
have,
days.
they have two kids classes, right? The
Yeah,
70,
the gates are
170,
full,
and the 6
and it's
something.
awesome
whatever.
to see these little
Oh my
kids.
God,
Anywhere
yeah.
from my kid was 5 years old. He was in his first World Championship race. He was looking through the steering wheel because he wasn't tall enough to see over it.
You watching these kids, you're like, these are the kids going to be beating us one day. You know,
Yeah,
that's the
that's
future
where
of the
Seth
sport.
Quintero
Yeah.
came from. Polaris 170 won the kids race, and then later on got a deal with Red Bull. I think he was the youngest Red Bull athlete, and then now they just announced they're taking him to car,
Yeah, through UTVs.
and it's through UTVs. It's a
Great opportunity.
It's a great opportunity, and people all the time are like, they always ask, well, when are you going to move to trophy truck? Well, I'm not independently wealthy, so probably no time soon. But I have so much fun in the UTV class. The whole group of guys we race against. I mean, you see other racers, they push a car through the finish line and they go. UTV racers push a car across the finish line. We all pull over and start having beers together. It's just a great environment to race in.
So one of the things that we've talked about in the sport is, getting the trophy trucks their own race, which I know that the King of the Hammers is doing.
Right.
And some of the other series have started to separate a little bit, which I think is good for safety. Will we see more UTV only races like we see from
I think so.
the Martellis? I mean, are we going to see? I mean, I know Best in Desert already has their 250, which
King
is
of the Hammers. There's
King of the Hammers
100 and
separate
something cars racing.
How many of you
the
guys are
big
racing
races.
King of the Hammers in a UTV?
This year,
All
I'm doing
three,
it.
3 out of
Yeah.
4.
I'm
So that's
not. My
pretty
team
good.
is.
Yeah, your team is. Yeah, you have 2 cars racing it, right? Yeah.
They're racing turbo.
Oh, you
I
bet
just-
there
Well, there's only one class.
Under
King of the
contract.
I know.
Under contract. We
Or
can't race
contract,
anything other
section
than-
4.
Who's driving your car at Hammers?
So it'll be Elliot Watson and Christopher Polvardi.
And is it one combined class there,
Yeah.
turbo and,
Yeah.
and
It's
non-turbo,
all one
right?
big
So you
class.
have
Kind
two
of
cars?
run what you brung.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Two-
honestly, it
two
probably
cars?
doesn't matter too much
No.
there. It's more about who has the better lines. It doesn't get stuck,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So
It's all about your homework.
I got a question for you. What made you go with short course drivers for the desert? Not, I mean, they're definitely talented drivers for sure. But what made you go that route over picking someone that's been in the desert and doing things?
Yeah, I think there was a couple things that influenced that decision. I have been kind of recruiting young talent for the last year and a half, and I've met with every young driver out there. And
I didn't get a call.
Me neither. It's weird.
sorry, guys.
Said young, right?
And I think
But I'm bummed.
so. I might get crucified for saying this, but I think you got to look at, you know, yes, they have great driving skills, but
Right.
I had to look beyond it to see kind of how they were structured. And if you look at like Elliot, for example, Elliot comes from a father who's a Baja champion.
Tommy Watson.
Yeah, Tommy
Excellent.
Watson. He knows Baja.
Excellent driver.
He knows how to pre-run, and so for me, for a smaller team, if you will, we need that kind of support and knowledge down in Baja.
I
and so
agree with it.
that was part of the strategy of hiring Elliot, and I'm excited to share that we are actually paying these drivers. It's not huge, but I'm excited to kind of be the first team in UTV racing to be able to pay drivers. But beyond that, Christopher Polvardi, again, comes from a really good family structure, has the ability to go down and pre-run. He's raced Mexico before, and he just was the right fit for the team. There's a lot of young athletes out there that'll probably tell you that they met with me over the last year and they know a lot about the program, but ultimately that's what it came down to. And they're the right age, they're the right personality to represent Honda. They're well spoken and they're incredible drivers. So we're just thrilled to have Christopher and Elliot on the team.
I was just curious to see what went behind the decision, and I didn't know that about Elliot with his father. I know when I raced for Honda, that was one of the decisions. When
The super agent Travis Clark was their navigator. Tommy Watson and Tim No.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Travis was the navigator for I think 3 championships.
Oh, wow.
I
Yeah,
didn't
Travis
even know
Clark and we raced against each other in Class 12 back in the days.
Yeah.
We were already racing trophy truck, but we went to war with those guys in the
Nice.
Class 12 car a couple bunch
Yeah,
of times.
good family support
Yeah.
is always a big thing, especially for Baja, because you're out there on your own. You've got to have some support system
Takes a
behind you.
team.
Yeah.
Baja for sure.
And I think
Yeah.
that's one of the things behind fielding a team for Baja that a lot of people that are outside the sport don't understand that component to it. And I think
Right.
it's a key component to our racing.
Now you have 2 drivers. Are they racing separate cars?
Yeah, they'll race separate cars.
So who else is going to drive?
Yeah, so we already have one team completely lined up for the 1,000 this year. We're having our first Baja 1,000 planning meeting first part of January, so we're already kind of planning for that point-to-point 1,200-mile race. I'll tell you. Dickerson is going to be one of the drivers,
Okay.
and Colby Weppel. And you guys might know him. He's Seth Quintero's navigator. So
Okay, I was going to say. So is he navigating?
no, he'll
He'll
be
be
a
driving.
driver, yeah.
Okay.
He's a works UTV driver.
Okay.
So,
So-
again, staying with kind of the young philosophy, building a driver development program. Those guys will be kind of a dynamic team for the 1,000.
I get it. Yeah.
And you guys will be racing the 1,000, obviously, point to point. Are
Yeah.
you guys going to team up husband and wife? You guys going to keep your
No,
own
that's
vehicles?
not a good idea.
Do you guys have drivers that are going to help you there?
Yeah, like this year at the 1,000. The years past, I've soloed the 1,000. Kristen always solos it. She's stubborn, tougher than I am. But this last year, I had Josh Rowe.
Josh Rowe's
you know
great.
Josh,
Yeah, great talent.
very talented on a ATV motorcycle.
Yeah.
And
He's ridden Rip Cabo with us a couple times.
Yeah, and he did phenomenal driving at the 1,000. So he's going to race with me again. Kristen and I have had numerous conversations about her, and she is soloing it. She wants to do it. by
Are you
herself.
going to race the 1,000?
We're lined up to race the 1,000 this year.
You are, right
yes,
on.
Sir.
Who will you be lined up with?
My
team
brother
with?
and I, we raced
Okay.
it together, so we tag team it, and hopefully we'll make it to the finish.
Right on. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys all
Yeah.
down there.
Now
Be
you
safe.
said you're Can-Am. Are you going to race
Yeah, you want to
Can-Am
take
at
a
all?
leg or what? Yeah.
Cameron used to have a DA race car, a Rhino, back in the day. Remember that?
That's why he
You
was
had a
so
Rhino?
mean to us.
Was
He
that
like,
one of
"Yes,
those
I know."
Japanese
Yeah.
brands?
It only had a Japanese
It
guy
was a
in it, kind
Japanese
of. My
guy.
buddy Glenn.
No turbo.
Glenn and
Glenn
Dean, they
Evans.
actually did a TV show for a long distance jump, and there's it was pretty cool to have those guys around. But that was quite a while ago. We're gonna be doing UTV stuff. What we're doing exactly, I don't know yet, but I do know that we are going to race King
You're
of
going to
Hammers.
race hammers in the
Yep,
Can-Am?
100%.
Awesome.
We had the Can-Am out there last week a little bit. I've been
heard
doing
rumor.
some training on dirt bikes, and the big thing is we're racing the Ultra 4 with laser nut, and so we're going to be in the number 48 for that. And
How
that's
is the difference between driving the trophy truck and the Ultra 4?
It's interesting that the Ultra 4 has some really cool characteristics. You can't compare the planted nature of the trophy truck
Right.
and the acceleration and the 1,000 horsepower.
Yeah.
But what's crazy about the Ultra 4 is you can really put it in a lot of unique situations. And what I really like about it is there's a lot of thinking that goes into it, a lot of processing, not just the lines, but how to attack different rocks in different sections.
How this
And
line's
so-
going to affect your next
Yeah,
line.
so I've trained with Cody Wagoner, who's a champion in the We Rock series, and obviously he drives his car. We will drive together. And it's been great. I've been out with Jason Shear, spent some time with Wayne Isringham,
Yeah.
who's going to be my navigator.
Oh.
And so we've really been working hard at it. We have over 12 total days in the car already.
Okay.
And so now we're training. That vehicle's being prepped. So what I really like about it is the interesting fact of the independent suspension, all four corners, and of course there's no pumpkin. There's no.
Right.
It's so crazy.
You're not going to knock that thing off.
Yeah, you're constantly thinking about where to set the car up and how to do it. But with that vehicle, it's really wild. What is totally different is you can't lean into the berms like you can with the live rear axle because the rear will come up a little bit. It's different, very different.
Wants to come up and over.
Yeah, well, it just wants
Yeah.
to push over the berm.
Right.
Yeah, so it's been a great experience, and the guys over there at Laser Nut have done a great job. But to compare the two is really tough because at the end of the day, the Ultra 4 will never do what the trophy truck does,
And the trophy truck
dirt.
won't do what
the
the
trophy truck can't do. What the Ultra 4 can. And what I like about the Ultra 4 is it can do so many different things.
Yeah.
It's very unique, and I've been a big fan. For those of you guys who don't know, I've been around this King of Hammers since the second year. As
I didn't
an
know that.
invited guest, I actually navigated for Brad Lovell that second year.
Okay.
And then I've hosted a number of years, raced the King of the Motos twice, finished once, did not finish another time, and then had that navigating opportunity in the Hammer. So I'm
awesome.
excited about it. I'm really excited about the UTV. You know what I think is cool about the UTV is that there's so many possibilities with all the different UTVs and all the people that are entered there, and there's so much possible chaos in those hammer canyons.
Yeah.
That it really is going to have to take a lot of thinking for someone to really have a great day.
It's unique. Like going to this race, the King of the Hammers, I get some people that have always been in my corner, and they're like, "Oh, you're going to kill it." I'm like, I don't know.
Didn't you say you've never used a winch before?
I've never used a winch before.
yeah.
You know,
King of
it's-
Hammers is anybody's
You won't need it,
day.
Wayne.
Yeah.
You won't need it.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot of work to beat Mitchie or the
he's done
Campbells or Sims.
Yeah.
There's a lot of or Blurton. There's a lot of talented people that have been doing this for a while. So
And we are working with Phil Burton's
Okay,
company.
super good guy.
Yeah, super good guy, and I'm
It's,
really excited to be teamed up with them.
what I'm looking forward to is something different. I've been racing in Baja my whole life. Been out in the desert my whole life. I've never done the rock crawling thing, so it's going to be unique, and I'm hoping I'm going to like it.
I can tell you, I'm pretty deep on my number of days out there, and it's super fun. I mean, I've
Yeah.
spent years out there doing stuff. When we race King of the Motos, we race some of those same routes.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I was out this week on my moto riding, and I'm going again tomorrow.
Okay.
But it's crazy how much it changes and the
Yeah.
way it develops out there. But I look forward to seeing all you guys, and I think that's one of the great things about King of the Hammers is it's very inviting to everybody. Dave Cole's done a great job
Yeah,
at making it functional for spectators and for racers and all these different classes of
Right.
racing. Although they don't have as many classes as, say, the Mint, which is also an awesome race.
Right.
It's
There are
really
two different
cool.
forms of racing,
For
though.
sure.
The Mint or the King of the Hammers. And I think both series or both races have elevated off-road as a whole.
Well, they're
hugely.
the two biggest races in the United States,
Yeah.
so hands down.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have the allure of the Baja races, in my opinion. Everybody's got their own opinion.
We share that one.
But I mean, it's amazing what those two races
Oh,
have
yeah.
created in the U.S.
They become must-attend races.
Yeah,
And
for sure. And it makes you wonder why, one of those have not created another race. I know
Right.
it's a huge undertaking. I mean, I do Rip to Cabo one time a year and trail missions one time a year, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
so done. And I didn't have to deal with 80,000
Right.
people.
Mad Media does with the UTV World Championships.
Right.
I heard there was talks about KOH and Mad Media potentially coming
I've
together.
heard the same thing, but I
knows?
haven't.
That's a whole other show.
Yeah,
Maybe
there you
next
go.
show, maybe, yeah.
Back to the King of the Hammers. Are you guys racing a 2-seat chassis or a 4-seat?
Yeah, good question. We're going to race the 2-seat chassis for Hammers and probably the short course at UTV Worlds.
Okay.
But the rest of the races, we're going to race the four-seat.
The 4-seat.
race. Yep.
Okay. Now, are you going stock width on your 2-seat car for King of the Hammers, or are you going to make it a little bit wider?
It'll be a little bit wider.
Okay. That's always been my internal debate. Do I go, long travel suspension or regular, 74-inch or 64-inch? And we settled at the Turbo S. So, pulled the
I'm not
trigger.
going to tell you what we're doing.
Secrets.
Top secret.
Too super secret.
It's not secret, but we're going to go out there and try to have a great time, and we look forward to being a part of it. I'm looking forward to being in my first. I mean, I can just say it openly. I've not only never not raced a UTV, I've never really driven a UTV.
Awesome.
So
We're gonna put a GoPro on your car for
You
sure.
should pick it up pretty fast.
Yeah.
I heard you're decent.
Yeah, I'm okay. I have a lot of history when it comes to limited class racing, so
Yeah.
hopefully that pays off.
It'll
So does
pay
that mean
off.
you get an orange duct tape on your rear
I hope
bumper
so.
as a rookie?
Yeah.
It'll
Spray
probably
paint pink.
surprise you how capable the vehicle is.
No,
They're
what's
extremely
amazing
capable.
about it is that they are so capable, and
Yeah.
just being inside of it for a short amount of time is like, it really blows your mind what it can do.
Yeah.
And
Incredible machines.
they're really incredible machines.
Anytime anybody gets in the race car, like for the first time, they think it's a UTV, and they're lightly hanging on. It's like, holy crap! I mean, it's the same thing could be said for like even a 1600 car. You watch them go by, you're like, but then when you strap in that little thing and it's bouncing through the whoops,
And you
it's like,
say,
holy crap.
I'm going to caution you. You say little thing, but like when that thing goes, when the UTVs go by in Baja, I can't tell if it's a 10 car or a UTV or a 16 car. It's all
Right.
like they're
Yeah.
all
There's
real.
still,
They're all
there's
the
still,
same.
there's
Yeah.
still golf carts.
I-
There'll always be a golf cart.
Yeah. Here we go.
You can
Here
try
we
to
go.
justify whatever you want. It's still a golf cart. They're just a little faster golf carts now.
Thanks, Chris.
Right on. Final thoughts, Jason?
Had to get that in there.
Thanks for having us here. I had a great time talking about this. Like I said, we really look forward to seeing you out there in the desert, and we will race against you in some classes. I don't know which one it is, but
Turbo class.
I hope it's in the turbo class eventually. But no, I appreciate being here. It was great talking with all you guys.
First time I hung out with this guy, I kind of like his attitude. It's kind of fun.
He's not backing down off his stance.
He's not. He's
No.
not. He's like very much. This is where I'm standing
Yeah.
on this deal.
Yeah.
Jeff, closing thoughts.
I think that from Honda's perspective, we're just excited to be in the game and to go out and race against Can-Am and Polaris. And, I hope Yamaha and Kawasaki and Speed Energy, side by side, whatever his company's name is coming out to play with us. And just look forward to the future of the sport. And
Yeah.
Thanks for the healthy discussion, guys.
And the 7200 truck still going?
Yeah, we're going to still race the 7200 Ridgeline truck next year. So, yeah, it obviously won't race at King of Hammers or UTV Worlds, but it'll have our full schedule. So we'll race Parker, Mint, Baja 500, Vegas to Reno, Baja 1000 in the truck.
I think you guys should bring that car out to San Felipe 250.
There's a possibility.
The 7200 or
or that, but the Honda, the Talon. Bring it out there.
I don't think that's going to happen this year.
Closing thoughts, Wayne?
Just glad that Honda's back in the game. It's like Jeff said, I would like nothing more than to see all the manufacturers lined up like it was a supercross race where you have every manufacturer represented and we're all out there having a good time and battling it out. So we'll see where the sport goes.
Right on. Everybody remember, this is opinion-based Fishgistics. Don't take anything as fact. Take it as fun. Nothing here is the word of law in any race series.
Yeah.
My number one thing that I'd like to say to everybody about it, especially when it comes to entry level, think about what you're doing. Be safe. Have a good plan. And don't get out there and go too fast right away. It's not always about going the fastest. It's about getting to the finish line. But the number one goal for every race team and everybody involved should be safety. So be safe when you guys are out there. I want to thank Wayne Matlock, Jeff Proctor, Jason Murray, representing three great brands. I want to thank all the other brands for being a part of the sport. UTV is growing. It's getting bigger. There are so many different possibilities to come. And it's an exciting time in off-road racing. And I'm clearly excited to be involved with it. That's this episode of Fishgistics from BajaHQ. Come down and hang out sometime if you'd like. We'll build your truck, your UTV, or maybe even your
there's the
motorcycle.
sponsor plug.
Yeah, there's sponsor plug. And you don't have to roll that in there. But it's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it, and I look forward to the next conversation. I look forward to seeing, and Fishgistics will follow up with this, what the rules and how the rules develop and where the classes will be broken down.
Yeah, I'm super looking forward to it.
I'm interested because, as I close, my thought is that I think at some point the unlimited class might become that class for the biggest, best teams, but at the same time, I totally understand where you guys are with keeping it stock and developing for the manufacturer. So I'm interested to see how those things play out.
I think you might be onto something, but I think the name needs to change because, you know, like Can-Am, Polaris, I'm sure Honda, not interested in racing an unlimited vehicle.
No.
If there was a name change on that class and then some more structure into that class, then I think you could be onto something.
Now you might be onto something.
Sounds like we have the next show lined up.
Yes, I think all the great heads of UTV and the promoters will get together and find a way to make this all work. That's my feeling. We'll see how it plays out because, like I said, there's no facts here, just fun. That's it for this episode of Fishgistics and UTVs.